Good day and welcome to today's African News. We are broadcasting from Canada. My name is Sandra Asante. Let's take a look at the headlines. U.S. calls for negotiated ceasefire in Ethiopia. Ethiopia resumes filling Nile Dam reservoir, raising tensions ahead of UN meeting. MSF suspend Tigray work amid shocking violence. This and other stories coming up after the break. Stay tuned. Thank you so much for joining me. To our first story, MSF suspends Tigray work amid shocking violence. The medical charity MSF has suspended its work in some part of Ethiopia's war-torn region of Tigray 2 weeks after the 3 of its staff were killed there. In a statement, MSF had called for an immediate investigation into the killings and insist that aid workers are allowed to do their jobs in safety. Almost 2 weeks since the murderers of our colleague, no one has claimed responsibility and the circumstances around their death remained unclear. MSF Operations Director Theresa San Christopher said she described the decision to suspend work in Abiadi, Adigrat and Azum as extremely painful but necessary. The murder of our colleagues Maria, Tedros and Yohannes is a tragic example of the complete disregard for human life that our team have witnessed in this conflict. She stated the level of violence against civilians and the atrocities committed in Tigray are utterly shocking. We are still in Ethiopia. Moving on, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Tuesday stressed the need for a negotiated ceasefire in Tigray in a call with Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. The U.S. official called for a full withdrawal of Eritrean and regional Amhara forces from Tigray and for the authorities to ensure unhindered and safe humanitarian access to the people in need. Mr. Blinken also emphasized the urgency of holding an inclusive political dialogue to resolve the ethnic and political divisions in the country. The conflict has pushed Tigray into a deep humanitarian axis, with hundreds of thousands of people living in famine conditions, according to the UN-backed estimate. Last week, the Ethiopian government declared a unilateral ceasefire and troops pulled out of Tigray. The Tigray People's Liberation Front TPLF force initially described the Ethiopian government ceasefire as a joke and vowed to drive their enemies from the region after retaking the regional capital, Mekelle. We are still in Ethiopia, and Ethiopia has started the second phase of filling the reservoir of its mega dam on Upper Blue Nile. Egypt and Sudan said, raising tensions Tuesday ahead of the upcoming UN Security Council meeting on the decisive project. Both Cairo and Khartoum said they had been notified by Addis Ababa that the second phase of the filling had begun at the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, the JERD. Egypt's irrigation ministry late Monday expressed its firm rejection of this unilateral measure, and Sudan's foreign ministry on Tuesday followed suit, labeling the move as a risk and imminent threat. In Addis Ababa, the office of the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and Irrigation Minister Selashi Bekele did not respond to AFP's request for comment. The huge dam, said to be Africa's largest hydroelectric project when completed, has sparkled an almost decade-long diplomatic standoff between Addis Ababa and downstream nation Egypt and Sudan. The project is essential to its development, but Cairo and Khartoum fear it will restrict their citizens' water access. Both governments have begun urging Addis Ababa to sign a binding deal over the filling and the dam's operation, called to the UN Security Council to take up the matter. Thursday's Security Council meeting was requested by Tunisia on behalf of Egypt and Sudan, a diplomatic source told the AFP. But France's ambassador to the UN said last week that the council itself can do little apart from bringing all the sides together and encourage them to get back to the negotiations. Tunisia has also submitted a draft solution calling on Ethiopia to cease the filling the reservoirs, diplomatics stated. The text obtained by the AFP calls on the three countries to resume negotiations and to finalize the detail of an agreement on filling within 6 months. It urges It urges the three countries to refrain from making any statement or taking any actions that may jeopardize the negotiation process and urge Ethiopia to refrain from continuing the unilaterally filled Thijert reservoir. No date has been set for the draft resolution vote, and diplomatic sources have said it is unlikely it will be as early as Thursday's meeting. Egypt's Foreign Minister Sameh Shukri said in an earlier note to the UN that the negotiations are at an impasse and accused Ethiopia of adopting a policy of insurgency that undermines our collective endeavors to reach an agreement. Shukri and her Sudanese counterpart Maria Al-Mahdi met in New York ahead of the Security Council talks to reiterate their firm rejection of Ethiopia's move. Relations between Cairo and Addis Ababa have been icy over the past decades, while tensions have also risen between Ethiopia and Sudan as the Tigray conflict has sent refugees fleeing across the border into Sudan. Addis Ababa had previously announced it would proceed to the second stage of filling in July with or without a deal. Ethiopia urges that adding water to the reservoirs, especially during the months of July and August, which typically enjoy heavy rainfall, is a natural part of the construction process. Egypt, which depends on the Nile for about 97% of its irrigation and drinking water, sees the dam as an existential threat. Sudan hopes the project will regulate annual flooding, but fears its own dam would be harmed without agreement on Ethiopia's operation. The 145 meters, that is the 475-foot tall mega dam construction, of which began in 2011, has a reservoir with a total capacity of 74 billion cubic meters, that is 2.61 trillion cubic feet. Filling began last year, with Ethiopia announcing in July 2020 it had hit a target of 4.9 billion cubic meters, enough to test the dam's first 2 turbines. We are in South Africa now, and South Africa's former President Jacob Zuma must hand himself over to the police on Wednesday or face being arrested, according to last week's ruling by the Constitutional Court, because he was found to be in contempt. It is not clear, however, what will happen to him. Jacob Zuma Foundation spokesperson Nzwaneli Meyi told BBC Focus on Africa he does not believe Mr. Zuma will be detained. As far as we are concerned, no arrest should happen because the person to carry out the arrest is on record saying he's waiting for the litigation to finish, he said. Mr. Mani said Police Minister Becky Selle wrote to the court saying he would wait for the litigation which guide him in executing the arrest. The former president's lawyer have gone to the High Court to block the proceedings, but Mr. Selle said he would respect the constitutional ruling. University of Cape Town's constitutional law professor Perry DeVos told the BBC Newsday that if the Wednesday deadline is not observed, it will be yet another act of contempt and the legitimacy of the legal system will be threatened. It will cast some doubt on the ability of the willingness of the government of the day to adhere to the law, even against somebody who is powerful like Mr. Zuma, the former president, is, he added. Last week's Constitutional Court ruling came after Mr. Zuma's ignored the court orders to give evidence to a corruption inquiry. Thank you so much for watching today's African News. My name is Sandra Asante. I'll see you some other time.